Evening, everyone, and welcome to Dead Reckoning Radio. We are live, and I am your host, Jay Friesen, in the studio live with the lovely Hadley Heath and the good Dr. Brian G. Mattson. DR Radio is where we sit around this old door-turned table and discuss the latest cultural hotspots from a distinctly Christian perspective. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live. We are looking forward to your banter in the comments during the show. So hover over the little thing you see, the little video thing you see, and this says that our live feed, and hit the click more button to join the chat, and the chat window will pop up, and you can talk to Hadley, myself, Brian, whoever you want. And thank you to those of you who have downloaded our 5-star rated podcast. It all started with you. We thank you for subscribing and downloading. If you have not subscribed, you should, because we might publish more than just our podcast for fun or something, I guess. So visit our website at www.deadreckoning.tv, and you can also follow us on Instagram and YouTube and all those other places. So tonight, our unbroken string of great shows continues. We'll be talking about Hillary, not a criminal Clinton, more police shootings, and pastoral censorship in Iowa. As always, we'll include games of wit and whimsy. Our games, and Remley, our producer, thank you, Remley, for producing the show. She said we need to have two games, count them, 1, 2, of Not the Onion News tonight. They are that good. So we're going to two games. Yes, 2 games of Not the Onion News.
2 Not the Onion. Sweet.
But before we get started with a few quick takes, thank you to our sponsors for making the show possible, as well as our donors, one of them in the studio with us tonight. So that's exciting. I'm going to point to her sitting in a chair right there.
You can't see her, but she will be.
She's there. She's evaluating.
She will remain anonymous.
She's evaluating whether she wants to continue giving us money. So she's like, is this really legit or not? So we also have our sponsors to thank. Dead Reckoning is a 501c3 that relies on their support and your generous donations. Tonight's sponsors are Alliance Defending Freedom, defending your right to freely live out your faith. ADF is battling for freedom daily in the courts of America. You can visit them at www.adflegal.org. We will be hearing from them twice during this 90-minute presentation. And to our donors, if you want swag, hit us up. hello@deadreckoning.tv. And if you... I sent you a bunch of swag already. I sent her a bunch of swag.
And no talking. Okay, we got that donor in the room.
This is like the Facebook comments in studio, live Facebook, like
she doesn't have a microphone. No comments, no talking.
No, if you would like a T-shirt or a hat, generally a donation of $25 will get you whatever you want. So jump on over to our website and make that happen, guys. 4th of July. This week was America's 240th birthday. That was exciting. Hadley, how did you celebrate?
You guys won't believe this. My husband took me camping.
Why won't I believe that?
That's
I'm 37 weeks pregnant.
You're 8 months pregnant.
Slept on the ground.
Maybe he figured a good hike will drop that baby and move it down there.
I think we should have a little chat with Aaron maybe about something. Or
I like this man. Nothing
it was
stops
fun
him.
though. Yeah, it was fun.
Sleeping on the ground was okay. Baby Manning made it okay. I mean, man.
There's a little part of me that's kind of like, sleeping anywhere for extended periods of time isn't super comfortable, so might as well be on the ground, so might as well. You have to get up and go to the bathroom every couple hours anyway.
Wow.
But it's a blessing. It's a great time. It's a very sweet time in our marriage, and we got to go with some friends who were with a group of about 8 people, and just celebrating America. We roasted some bratwursts on the fire, and it was kind of like hot dogs and all the things that we love, being outside, being in creation. So it was pretty awesome.
As Jim Gaffigan says, I don't normally have a brat, hot dog, and hamburger, but it is 4th of July. I need to be well fed before I blow stuff up. Brian, what'd you do?
I flew the friendly skies. All day on Independence Day, I was traveling with our friends, the airline industry, flying the friendly skies.
You sound super enthusiastic.
I don't, I truly actually don't really like traveling very much. And this was a particular trip that took 2 connections, which I hate flying. If it takes me 3 airplanes to get there, then it really better be worth it.
That's anywhere. That's anywhere in Billings.
No,
it takes you
that's
three
not-
three flights to get to Denver. No, actually, it's the only place you can get nonstop.
No.
Denver.
Usually, no. Look, here we live in Montana, so usually I can go to a hub. I can go to Salt Lake. I can go to Minneapolis. I can go to Denver, and I can get a direct flight to where I'm going. Except I was going to Chattanooga, Tennessee, so that took Minneapolis to Atlanta to Chattanooga. So it was that extra connection. It just wipes me out. It's no fun.
Jacob Say says it sounds like it was Frontier.
No. Should I mention the name of the airline? I had the first time I really had a bad experience.
Was it United?
No, I don't fly United because of bad experiences.
Did you have a bad experience on Delta?
I did, yes.
Wow. I've never had a bad experience on Delta.
I ended up stranded last night in the wonderful metropolis of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Stranded. I arrived at 1:30 a.m. in Minnesota, and obviously no connection.
Wow.
And that was no fun. So I'm a little tired, a little travel weary. My point is, I did not get to celebrate the 240th birthday of our country. I didn't celebrate at all. My family was all back here doing fireworks and cool stuff. And
you didn't celebrate in either one of those two places.
Know, I'm grateful for my country. Okay. I am, but I didn't really celebrate. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I went to no less than 3 4th of July parties, barbecues, fireworks, and all. And my son, who was 5, happened to see his first real fireworks show, and he was just completely enthralled. We let him stay up way past his bedtime. Way past.
Cool.
And he wanted to lay out on the blanket, stare up into the sky, and watch him just explode overhead.
It's so impressive when you do that.
Hadley, I have a random fact that may surprise you. Laurel, Montana, is said to be, and this is hearsay from somebody who said this to me, said to be one of the top 5 fireworks shows in the nation.
Oh.
How do they gauge all the small towns in America?
I absolutely don't believe
It's a really good fireworks show.
Yeah.
And
you know
really
what? And people should be, here's the thing. People should be content with just saying, Laurel, Montana has a really good fireworks show. Why do we have to puff it up to like it's top 5 in the nation? It is not.
Because that's the American way, Brian.
It's the American way, Brian.
Competition is the American way.
Okay. It's cool.
I love fireworks.
Let
me tell you how much
too.
I love fireworks. We love fireworks so much, Aaron and I, my husband and I, that we ended our wedding celebration with a fireworks display.
That's awesome.
That was the end of the evening.
Listen, I love fireworks too. I love fireworks too, and so I went and helped my friend Ty actually run his fireworks stand this year. So he actually sells fireworks. He has his fireworks stand, and so I took my daughter up there and we sold fireworks to people, and we had all kinds of fun. And one night we went out and we took a bunch of fireworks and went out into a field and laid in the field, and we launched them up in the air, and they were breaking like right over us. And it's just so impressive when you're that close. I mean, we had like ash raining down on us, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
Got a little pyromaniac in you.
Oh, no. You know what? So my friend Ty, he turned my daughter into a pyromaniac. I mean, she like worked the fireworks stand with him, and now she's just all about fireworks this and fireworks that, and I won't say. She took a bunch of fireworks home and sparklers and like did scientific experiments on them that I can't repeat. I actually can't repeat in the air because ATF would probably not approve. But yeah, so she's kind of a pyro. And by the way, I'll send a little shout out to my daughters and my bride, who are out on the and my friend Ty, who are out on my deck right now, watching the broadcast. So I wish I could be there with you guys, but you know what? Duty calls. I gotta
well,
do
considering
this
your
awesome
brother-in-law
show.
is an ATF agent, I don't know that'd be the wisest choice. We like to go down to
there is that.
We like to go down
fire
to
investigator, no less.
Yeah, we like to go down to the Indian reservation and get our fireworks, and then ask them not only for the ones at the reservation, but the ones in the battery like closet behind.
You gotta go up to Columbus, man. Help our friend Ty out. He had
No,
it was business.
His are too small. His are legal and too small. Right. So the Ark of the Encounter. We're working on quick takes right now. Welcome back to the show. We had some internet issues. We're working on our quick takes, and then we're gonna go through no criminal Clinton, and a couple police shootings and some censorship issues. So, quick takes, you guys. The Ark encounter opens. Ken Ham and his fellow young Earth creationists have finished their $100 million Noah's Ark amusement attraction in Kentucky. Is this on your bucket list?
Not really. I think it's a little weird. Can I just say I think it's a little weird creating an amusement park about an event that is really not amusing. Like the destruction of every man, woman, and child on planet Earth except for 8 people. I'm not sure an amusement park is really the appropriate thing to do, but I hear they have dinosaurs, like animatronic dinosaurs in cages and stuff. Well, Ken Ham, look, the young Earth creationists, they're very convinced that dinosaurs would have been on Noah's Ark. And they're very dogmatic about this point, and so that's part of the amusement park, is that they have like dinosaurs and stuff and Noah's Ark, and $100 million they spent on that. No, it's not on my bucket list. I don't know that I'll ever care to go.
I don't know if it's on my bucket list, but I am in their demographics list because I have been advertised at
really?
much
For that.
Yes, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it is. If I watch Fox News or like watch ESPN or something, but there's whatever I'm watching or consuming media wise, the Ark encounter is like getting advertised to me pretty hard.
So now that surprises me, okay? Because I got to tell you, I'm a Christian theologian, right? Like
right.
I am like Bible, theology. This is my world. This is my internet world. And I have never seen an advertisement for Ark Encounter.
Well, you're the 99, like, Brian. Maybe they're going after the one here. Maybe they're doing
I actually
outreach.
Suspect. I think they suspect I know too much to be taken in by their wiles.
They know you're not a young Earth creationist.
That's possible.
Old Earth creationist.
Possible.
I grew up with Ken Ham. I wanted to go
too.
on one of his Australia trips. I really wanted to go on one of his Australia trips.
He's an effective.
Never could make it happen.
I went to some of his seminars too.
I have. If I'm driving through Kentucky, and I happen to be going by, I might carve out an hour just for the heck of it. I mean, come on. It's not a bucket list item, but if it's life size, that could be fun.
Okay.
Here's a question. Okay. Are there other things like the Ark encounter that are like amusement parks that represent something real? Because all the other amusement park stuff I can think of is
fantasy,
fictional, and fantasy
Universal
stuff,
Studios.
Right?
So is this one? No,
those are real.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're getting in trouble for that,
I'm
Brian?
getting in trouble for that. No, I don't mean it, people. I do believe there was a flood, okay? And I believe the Bible is true.
Well, Casey, on the live stream, Casey pointed out Dollyland.
Dollyland?
Dollyland.
Because Dolly Parton is real.
Except for her breasts.
Parts of her are, yeah. I don't know about this. I just feel like if I were a parent, like, I don't know that I'd want to like confuse the fantasy of other amusement parks with the Ark.
So what
saying?
Are you saying like there should be a distinction between a museum and an amusement park? It's like a museum is
I
like
guess the Ark encounter, people certainly don't refer to their encounter as an amusement park, do they?
That's
if
true.
they did, that'd
the
be
press
kinda
does,
weird.
though. The press does. The article I read today was, it's an amusement park style thing.
Isn't there a giant creation museum going in Montana? Or did that already go in?
I have no idea. I don't keep up.
Do you remember when Bill Nye and Ken Ham did that debate?
I do.
That was like
we talked.
That was
about
like the debate of the quack jobs. Like quacks on both ends.
Neither was really competent in the field that they were representing, so that was kind of a problem with the debate.
All right, so
next quick take.
Quick take. Hey, girl, go to church and live longer. With an impressive sampling of almost 90,000 women. That's impressive, 90,000.
That's a
lot. A new
That's
academic study finds a correlation between church attendance and lower suicide rates. Women who attend church once a week are over 5 times less likely to commit suicide. What's so funny?
Very good.
What's so funny?
I was just sorry. Okay, look.
I was waiting for Hadley to say something, but
somebody
she just smiled.
Here's my thing. I think it's wonderful. It's wonderful going to church definitely makes you less likely to commit suicide. I just want to know how much money somebody paid. How much money did taxpayers pay to study this question? I'm not surprised. It is not surprising that people that have a robust spiritual life are less likely to commit suicide. It seems blindingly obvious to me. But we had to interview 90,000 women so that we could come up with the scientific number. I'm sorry. I find it a little silly. It's not silly. The actual fact they discovered or substantiated is not silly. I think it's great. But studies amuse me. That's all. That's really all I got to say.
Hadley, is it true? Do you feel less likely to commit suicide because you go to church?
I have a few observations, and one of those is, like most things published in a medical journal, this is not an experiment. It's an observational study. And so association does not imply causation.
Right.
And by that, I mean, there's a strong relationship, but it could be that there's some other confounding variables. Church attendance doesn't make you a Christian. And certainly there's, I think, social benefits from belonging to a church and seeing people once a week. And there's spiritual benefits too. So I don't doubt that there's some causal element to this. It's not a surprise. But, I certainly hope when people read this or see this, they understand that if you're a Christian woman and if you attend church regularly and if you are still suffering from depression or you feel suicidal, that I don't want this, this observational study to make people feel even more alienated.
Right.
It is still possible to feel down as a Christian. I don't want people to get this idea that because I go to church and because I'm a Christian woman, I should be happy all the time and it should look like I'm happy all the time. That's not necessarily what we're getting at here. Right. And I had to look into this study too, because I was very curious, like, why didn't they find the same result for men? And it's just because the sample here is all women. Right, they didn't study this in men. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a similar or stronger effect in men. But 5 times, my gosh, that is a strong association. When you have a suicide rate in one test group or one observational group that is 5 times lower, that is legit. That is
it's legit.
Pretty,
but let me ask you this though, Hadley.
Pretty interesting factoid.
I'd want to know what the controls were, right, on a study, because it would seem to me that women who weekly attend church are probably 5 times less likely to be alcoholics or drug addicts.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying about confounding variables.
I mean, why are we attributing it to weekly church attendance when there are other factors that could easily
I want to know what kind of
for.
church this is, because I would expect that some of those results would be based on what kind of church you go to.
Well, they did separate it out by Catholics and Protestants.
That
and
make you feel like you can't live up to it. You might want to shoot yourself in the head, or you got bad preaching, or terrible music, or maybe the carpet's ugly.
And I've seen other things that seem to show that people who are depressed benefit greatly from being married. That actually marriage can lower the incidence of depression. So I think a lot of church-going people are pro-marriage people, even if they're not married themselves. They are in some kind of community relationships, meaningful relationships with people, and certainly I think that can have an impact on your risk for suicide. So there's a lot going on in there. It's not just a simple formula. Go to church and you'll never commit suicide.
Yeah, go to church and you'll be happy. Right. Well, look, as a theologian, I'm just gonna. I'll say this. I'll finally give you my quick take. Right. I'll give you my quick.
Eventually,
take.
Brian will get to this point.
We're created in the image of God. We're His creatures. We are created as worshiping creatures. All right. And people that suppress the religious aspect of their being, of their nature, of their spirituality, of their psyche, and they deny that they worship anything, and they're not proactively worshiping God, are doing something fundamentally unnatural. It is natural for human beings to be worshiping creatures. So it is not at all surprising to me that women who worship on a regular basis, they worship God, are going to have less incidence of this sort of dysfunction, of deep depression and suicide. Again, I just kind of read the Bible, and I'm a theologian, and I just don't see that we needed a scientific study to tell us what God already told us. Your worshiping creatures worship me because I'm the source of blessedness and happiness. Okay, well, I kind of knew that.
Well said.
But I guess we needed a taxpayer-funded study. I don't know if it was taxpayer-funded.
It may not have
but
been
I
taxpayer-funded.
bet it was.
It's better than researching some of the other things I've heard them research.
Well said.
If you're just joining us, thanks for joining DR Radio. We're sitting around talking about some of the hot button topics in today's culture from a distinctly Christian perspective. It's Brian Mattson, Hadley Heath. I'm Jay Friesen, and we have just finished up our quick takes. We're going to be rolling into our heavy topics right now, and we've got a couple games coming up, and including some ad breaks from our sponsors. So thank you for joining us, guys. First heavy topic. There was nothing, and I know we had some fun talking on the quick takes, but there was nothing more scintillating than the FBI's announcement that they will recommend no criminal charges for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton over her mishandling of classified information. This occurred directly on the heels of Attorney General Loretta Lynch having a private sit-down meeting with Mrs. Clinton's husband in a private plane on the tarmac of the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. There is a lot to talk about here, but I think one of the first impressions, kind of like when you hold up an ink card. When you hear, Hadley, no criminal intent, what comes to mind with this?
All of my speeding tickets. I really didn't mean to.
Oh, that was
got a heavy foot.
Wow.
That was a good answer.
That was a good one.
Was I supposed to say something else?
Can I tell you,
Brian?
what's yours?
Yeah, Brian, go.
I'll tell you
go.
what comes to mind. I even tweeted it. I said, the level of absurdity and farce involved in all of this is so great that it threatens the entire space-time continuum, and I am not sure the universe can actually handle it. This is so mind-boggling that I feel like, some fundamental quantum reality has been contradicted here, and some gaping black hole is about to open up in the universe and swallow us forever.
I felt that way when Donald Trump won the nomination.
I also felt that way when Barack Obama was reelected. But
right. Back to
I really feel that this time.
Okay. So what do you guys like? This is this first big segment. Talk.
Okay, talk.
Hadley,
Jay's like, talk, guys, talk.
Hadley,
Don't make me moderate. Don't make me do a job. You guys just talk.
Brian, Hadley, talk.
I didn't think I'd have to actually. I thought that was you guys would just go at that point. It's very rare that you don't have to be wound up. So give me some political ramifications, Hadley. What do you think? What's the fallout of this going to look like moving forward? Yes, in terms of election, but kind of overall where the country's politics are headed.
Yeah, I think overall, one of the biggest takeaways in my mind is we're already at sort of this record low of trust for our institutions and a faith among the public that our government works for justice. And this, this announcement from the FBI director is not going to help. I mean, I think the reason why we have so much of an anti-establishment, pro-outsider vibe on both the right and the left with Sanders and Trump is a lot because of stuff like this, right? Because it is all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others, right? And this is just a perfect example of the animals who are more equal being like the Clintons, very connected. Somebody joked that Comey said what he said at the end of the he basically laid out the case for Clinton's indictment and why she did things wrong. And then at the end, it was the opposite conclusion that it sounded like he was headed towards. And somebody said, well, that's because he didn't want to die mysteriously somewhere, and I think, that's just it was a sad day for our country. But it was also, from a more short-term political perspective, the announcement was not 100% good news for Clinton, right? It was, Comey gave Republicans a lot of material in his statement and in his press conference. So it's disappointing that it doesn't seem just, it doesn't seem fair, it doesn't seem like the Clintons live under the same rule of law as everyone else. But he did spell out exactly how many emails contained classified and even top secret information. So it just goes to show that, many of the statements Clinton's made about this in the past are going to turn up to be false. And she's been lying about it, but I don't think that really tips the scales that much, because there are people who care about this and there's people who don't, and they're already sort of on either side of Clinton politically. And as far as her trustworthiness numbers go,
they're already bad.
It's not gonna surprise anyone that she's not a trustworthy person, right? This is not shocking. It's not like someone of very high integrity is found out to be a liar.
Right.
It's Hillary Clinton.
So you're saying, Hadley, you're saying that this is already baked into the electoral political pie, right? I mean, this is...
Yeah.
People already had strong opinions about this, and this isn't probably going to alter anything.
Yeah, I mean, the shocking thing would have been if Comey had said, and so we recommend that she get indicted. I mean, that would have been a bombshell. That would have been something that people who are on her team would have had to panic about.
Let me go back. I want to go back to the analogy of your description of FBI Director Comey's presentation, because they were saying, so he laid out the case very strongly. I mean, he contradicted everything she's been saying from day one and said, no, I mean, essentially, this is a lie, 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 and this is a lie. She absolutely mishandled classified information. He laid out the case that she absolutely violated the federal statute. And then he gets to the end and says, no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute this case. We don't recommend prosecution. And so everybody's focusing on that second part. Like, whoa, wait a minute. How did you get there? I think the more significant thing about the statement is the first part. Okay? Here's what I think is happening. I believe that Director Comey is doing this under duress. I believe this is contrary to what he wants to do. Now, I don't know the reason for that. There can be a myriad of reasons for why he did what he did. But he does answer to Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who just met with Bill Clinton, and it's possible the fix was in, and she just told him, we're not prosecuting, so that has to be your final answer. To me, it's more significant that in a presentation where I'm about to exonerate somebody and say, no criminal intent, no charges, why go through the trouble of laying out the case so strongly as he did? There was no need for that. He could have just gone up and said, the FBI has investigated, and we have found that there was no criminal intent, and we do not intend to recommend charges. The statement could have been that long. Why did he add the indictment that he added? It's because he's signaling to us. I believe this. He is signaling. Don't listen to the second part of this. Listen to the first part of it. I really believe that.
And then today, with his testimony on Capitol Hill, it was a lot of similar stuff. He answered a lot of the very tough questions from congressmen.
Was she lying? Yes.
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 She said this. Is that true? No.
How does she
true.
not get a perjury charge? Well, apparently she got herself a sweetheart deal where she got to have a little interview with the FBI in which she wasn't placed under oath. Wasn't placed under
recording.
oath.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I say the farce level is beyond belief. I want to remind viewers of some of the cases, some of the related cases that have been pursued by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and pursued to conviction and sentencing. Okay, Bradley Manning. I guess she goes
no relation.
by Chelsea now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she changed her first name, but not the second, to Clinton. Tried and convicted. Scooter Libby. Anybody remember Scooter Libby?
Wow, that name's bring back some
All
memories.
right,
I don't
so
remember what he
Scooter
did,
Libby.
but it brings back a lot of memories.
You know what he did? Do you know what he did? Nothing. Scooter Libby.
That's why I don't remember.
Scooter Libby was actually charged, and he was tried and he was convicted of outing CIA agent Valerie Plame to a reporter, Bob Novak. Bob Novak published an article in the newspaper outing Valerie Plame as a CIA op. They investigated and they charged Scooter Libby, who was a presidential advisor at the time, of being the guy that told Bob Novak that Valerie Plame was a CIA operative. They convicted him. President George W. Bush actually commuted his sentence. Didn't pardon him, by the way, which he should have. Didn't pardon him, just commuted the sentence and said he doesn't have to serve the sentence. Lo and behold, it comes out later that it wasn't even Scooter Libby. Guy by the name of Richard Armitage working in the Pentagon did it. Oh, but they pursued that to a conviction, okay? This happens all the time. There's been all kinds of military people got in big trouble. There was a naval officer who got kicked out and fined, and I'm not sure he was jailed, but by taking pictures of an engine room in a nuclear submarine. There are people who mishandle classified information all the time who get charged and get convicted. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, Scooter Libby, who didn't even do it, warranted a prosecution. But James Comey, Director Comey, wants to tell me that after that strong indictment he laid out, no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute her for this.
Are you going to mention David Petraeus?
Please. See, Petraeus came to mind for me.
Well, please mention David Petraeus. What did he do? Do you remember what he did? David Petraeus took, I am not kidding you, his own notebooks with his own notes about operations in Afghanistan, and he took them out of a secured area to his home, and they were seen by his mistress. Hillary Clinton exposed national secrets to our foreign enemies on a server she home based in her house.
Bathroom. It was in her bathroom.
He gets. This is
okay. So off of that, building a little bit off of your cultural ramifications, Hadley. I'm going to make a statement. I'm not going to ask a question. I am mortified by the willing acceptance that people are going to have for somebody so utterly untrustworthy, she doesn't care about sensitive government information. I mean, I'm flabbergasted.
She didn't care. No.
Culturally speaking, what are you guys seeing? And maybe Brian, this is a question for you. What are you seeing kind of underlying some of the we don't trust, we're all about.
Oh, I
can't even, it's just like, blah.
This is a doubling down on the exact same cultural, social situation that brought us Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, okay? And Hadley had it exactly right. We're essentially now in a banana republic, right? There are the elites, and then there are the peons, okay? There's one set of rules for us, and David Petraeus didn't even rise above that level, right? Scooter Libby certainly didn't. There's one rule of law for one group of people, and then there's the special group. There's the special group of people who just get wink, wink. I mean, how do you see the events that unfolded in this last week and not see the winks everywhere? Bill Clinton happens to meet
They were just
Loretta
talking
Lynch
about their grandkids, Brian. They were just talking about their grandkids.
I'm sure that's all they talked about was their grandkids and whether Hillary would see them or not. My thing is, how do you not see the wink, wink? Don't worry, we're whitewashing this thing. The more this happens, this is a sign. It really is a sign of a culture that is coming apart. It is collapsing. When you have this sort of a separation between the rule of law for some and not others, you know what you end up with? And God forbid we would ever get there, but you end up with the French Revolution. This is exactly how the French Revolution happened. Louis XIV, Marie Antoinette, so far divorced from the life of the common people. At some point, common people say, you know what? Enough of that. We're not having that anymore.
I can't let the common people off the hook entirely, though.
Oh, good. This is why we have this show. So that you can say, Brian, you're missing something. So that I can
say politically incorrect things like I'm about to say.
Go for it.
We had, another question in all this is, do we care as a culture about the integrity of our leadership? Because
maybe not.
We had a primary process on either side that has resulted in candidates, both of whom have disastrously low honesty and trustworthiness ratings, So this honesty and trustworthiness variable seems to be very unimportant to voters. It seems much more important to voters that we have a strong man or a strong woman, someone who can sort of voice their opinions from our perspective, because it's really ultimately about beating the other team in politics than it is about supporting someone who we believe will, carry themselves with dignity and will represent our country honorably in the world and in the policies that we make. So to me, it's just a sad day when Hillary Clinton is someone who, by a paper-thin margin of winks, isn't getting indicted in her FBI investigation, and yet it's a very competitive general election for her.
I was going to say we have,
and yet the alternative is Donald Trump, someone else whom voters are really worried about when it comes to his integrity. And so to me, this is sort of, as someone who would lean right anyway, this is just the nail in the coffin, saying, hey, you know what? If we had nominated someone with even a shred
of integrity,
of someone who could really be a true leader and unite people on the right side of the aisle, then this would be the end for the Clinton campaign.
So I just want to piggyback on that, Hadley, because I think you made a very profound point. I was saying there's a real problem when the elites set themselves up in sort of this aristocracy, and you're saying the more disturbing cultural problem is that we have a nation that tolerates it. And in fact, even lines up behind it, cheers it on, and endorses it. That's
frightening.
It is deeply profound, and it is deeply sad.
So what do you think? So Hadley, what do you think? We haven't touched on this, and we only have a couple more minutes before we need to go to break. But, John on our live stream had made a comment that, he said it was really eye-opening. He was a lifelong Democrat until 2 days ago. Do you see, what do you see happening to like the Democratic vote in this? Do you see it swinging towards Bernie because it's the only other option? Or do you see it disappearing into the ether like half of the conservative vote in America right now?
You mean, what do I think?
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen
to?
What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, Hillary's. How is this going to affect
Hillary?
Yeah, how's it going to affect her campaign?
Win. What are you talking about? She's going to win.
I want to hear something else.
I don't know. I don't think that the two sides are 100% comparable. I think Trump is got problems on the right, not just because he's not trustworthy, but because he's also not got the same policy positions as sort of the consensus Republican position on a lot of issues. So I think on the right we have even more division in a way. And ultimately I think Bernie Sanders is going to get out of the race and endorse Clinton and sing Kumbaya. And I think that the Democratic Party just is already set up inherently with, number one, an electoral vote advantage, and number two, a whole lot more emphasis on party unity. People on the right, forgive me for saying this, people who lean left, but a lot of people on the right are very independent-minded people. They're sort of live and let live, don't tell me how to vote, don't tell me what to do. And I think there's less of that on the political left, and I think it's going to be more about, what is her new campaign slogan? Stronger together, So
right. It's all about
they're going to be
unity,
about coming around their cause, even if they don't see Clinton as the main spokesperson for their cause. They'll hold their nose and they'll vote for her.
Yeah, and how long have I been saying this, guys? She's going to get 65 million votes. You just absolutely count on it. How long have I been saying it? Come on.
My father-in-law backs you up, Brian. He's like, the Democrats, they got this voting machine that comes out for the primaries.
Every general election, they turn out their vote. And there's no way Donald Trump pulls out anything even remotely in that neighborhood.
We just lost internet connection.
Well, that's not good, Jay.
Holding still. All right, we're back. Sorry about that, kids. We lost internet connection. We're going to get this fixed.
Let's go to a break.
This is intolerable. We should go to a break. You are watching Dead Reckoning Radio, listening to Dead Reckoning Radio. We're talking about, we just finished wrapping up No Criminal Clinton. We're going to be moving on to 2 police shootings and Iowa censorship right after this message from Alliance Defending Freedom, our sponsor for tonight's show. We'll be back right after this.
Prayer. For many, it's an instinctive, soul-deep reaction to times of great joy, deep distress, and crushing grief. Crying out to something higher, something beyond ourselves, someone more powerful than the forces that engulf us.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion.
Even in the midst of the ongoing debate over the proper intersection of church and state, our own government leaders invoke the Almighty before launching a day's legislative work, inaugurating a president, or speaking to families reeling from natural disasters and brutal terrorist attacks.
We are here in the middle hour of our grief. So many have suffered so great a loss, and today we express our nation's sorrow. We come before God to pray for the missing and the dead.
America's founding fathers recognized how crucial religious liberty is to our culture, and so wove religious protections into our laws and government. And they took time to pray for divine guidance as they wrote our great Constitution. Now that legacy of prayer and the very legal protections our founders secured is in grave danger. A lawsuit currently pending before the Supreme Court of the United States asks whether our government will retain our founding fathers' respect for public prayer, recognize its importance in the lives of millions of Americans, and preserve our nation's commitment to religious freedom. Learn what you can do to help in our defense of religious liberty, the freedom on which all other freedoms stand.
Lead us to the saving of our country, to let all men live in freedom. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to let everybody catch up here, since evidently when we lost the internet connection, it kept me going, but gave everybody a whole new post on Facebook.
Really?
This is what's called the bleeding edge of technology, and right now I feel like my arteries have been cut. I'm bleeding out. It's terrible. But everybody is slowly catching up. We've got 7 viewers on. Thank you to Alliance Defending Freedom for sponsoring tonight's show. For more information, visit them at www.adflegal.org. All right, Not the Onion News. This game is simple, and you can play along on the live stream.
My favorite game.
We've got 2, and as I mentioned, Remley has said that we're going to do two episodes of 2 segments of Not the Onion News.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, she just, I do what she says because she's smarter than me. So, that's how it works. When
Remley is pretty much the queen around here.
Right. This game is really simple. I read out 2 headlines. One is real and one is fake. One is Not the Onion News, and one could be an Onion headline. So we're stealing from the Onion. One day they're going to sue me, maybe. I don't know. But
you ready, Hadley?
You ready, Hadley?
Are you ready?
And I don't even bother anymore trying to keep track of who's winning and who's not. And
I'm winning.
Big shout out.
Winning.
I want to give a big shout out to you guys watching on the live stream right now. Thank you for staying with us as the stream randomly drops and coming back to a whole new post.
That's fantastic.
We're learning. I mean, this is technology so new. We're all still kind of learning our way around it. So, that said, you guys, here is the first headline. Okay, we're gonna stay local for this first headline. Actually, we're gonna be somewhere in the southeast of the United States. South Carolina town bans saggy pants. $600 fine for repeat offenders.
That's just so real.
That could totally happen.
That is totally real.
Yeah.
Okay. Headline number 2, Alabama town reviews law against public dancing.
Oh my goodness, that could be so real too.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's your two headlines. And for those of you listening, I'll let the delay. There's probably about a 7 to 10 second delay. South Carolina town bans saggy pants, $600 fine for repeat offenders. And Alabama town reviews law against public dancing. Which headline is real and which headline is fake?
I mean, they could both definitely easily be real. In fact, there's a lot of laws like against public dancing that are probably on the books in various like municipalities that are just not enforced. And so people don't even know that they're laws. But I'm going to go with pants being the real headline just because I like the specificity of the $600 fine.
Hashtag Team Hadley.
That's probably Remley just messing with me and throwing
Yes,
a
it is.
specific
I was going to
number in
say.
there.
I was going to say, you fell for that. You fell for that.
This is now I'm like reverse psychologizing myself.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, I said I would go with pants, so I'll go with pants.
Okay, Brian.
I was actually thinking to myself, the $600 is trying too hard.
It's a red herring.
It's
Pants?
too hard.
Pants or dancing?
I am going with Alabama dancing is the real headline.
You are. Okay. So, I want to quickly review we have the most of the live stream folks are choosing pants. We got Casey, Jacob, Matthew. Oh boy, you got.
Listen,
well, no, Jacob changed.
Can I
his
give
to
another?
go
No,
dance in
I'm going to
Alabama.
give another. I want to give another rationale, another reason that if a town in South Carolina really did this, it would be you would hear howls of outrage in national media about the racism of that particular ordinance, and I just don't believe that happened. I think it's Alabama dancing.
So Noel says he's going with Team Hottie. Oh no, he just said Team Brian.
Team Brian. Thank you guys. Team Brian.
Team Hottie.
Alabama.
Team Pregnant Hottie. I like those pregnant women. Okay, guys, here's the winning answer. One small town in South Carolina has had enough of the sagging pants.
They've had
And
enough.
they have passed an ordinance that would fine people for wearing them. It passed.
It's okay because this is mainly a thing that men do. If it was mainly a dress code thing that affected women, then there would be
then there'd be
like
outrage.
social
Like
justice
yoga pants.
outrage.
Yoga
Yeah.
pants.
Certain people should not wear yoga pants.
Yeah.
Well, certain people should not sag their pants. Okay,
that's true,
No
too.
people.
Guys, the city council passed the ordinance on a 5 to 1. 5 to 1.
Hey, that city council
know what to
is
think
the
about that.
dictionary definition of a good old boys club.
Oh man, Jacob thinks Levi should start boycotting South Carolina. That's actually pretty funny.
Oh man.
Sagging
Levi's
those,
are
those
like, I'm sorry.
550s. What did I used to
Levi's
wear?
are the jeans of white men and cowboys, and they always wear them way up
Wranglers.
high.
Wranglers. Are the
Wrangler.
Wranglers.
Wrangler.
Wrangler.
Okay,
Yep.
well,
Wrangler.
I probably
Levi.
know. I'm probably familiar with some brands of jeans that y'all don't even know that get real low around the knees in the South.
Well, you are a Southern
I would
belle.
think Levi's
are?
would be in like the white boy category.
Yeah, Levi's don't. Yeah,
You are a Southern belle, and we are. But we know our cowboys.
I don't
okay?
actually
And it's
know.
not
I don't
Levi's.
think. I have had a lot of jeans, and I've gone through a lot of jeans. I think I have not had a pair of Levi's since I was about 17.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
So I just don't wear like Levi's. I just don't
You're
wear
all
Levi's, so.
you're a hipster, so
I'm
you're
a
all
hipster.
raw
Well, and then I
denim
spent some
and
time hanging in
raw
the
denim and everything.
in the in the south side of Chicago, and it was they
You're
have a
just
bunch
too
of
hip.
different jeans
Too
down there
hip.
too. So yeah.
All right. What's our next
Right.
topic?
Next topic, you guys. Looks like another hot summer of urban protests. Police in Baton Rouge, Louisiana were caught on camera shooting a black man at point blank range as they attempted to handcuff him for selling, of all things, bootleg CDs. Then, in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, an officer shot and killed a driver in front of his girlfriend and child. The circumstances of that shooting are, in fact, kind of sketchy, but the girlfriend recapped the shooting on Facebook Live and claimed that her boyfriend told the officer he was carrying a gun and had a license to do so. When he reached for his wallet to retrieve his driver's license, the officer shot him 6 times.
In the car with his girlfriend and baby or little girl in the back seat.
I don't even know where to start on this. On the one hand, and I'll on the one hand, I am very pro law enforcement. I know many good law enforcement officers. It's a job that's needed. It's a job that I give him a high degree of respect for. But man, I'm seeing a lot of this stuff coming up on Facebook that just looks really, really sketchy. The circumstances are just not good. Like, you don't need to, like, pulling the guy out of the car, basically beating him. It's not.
Did you watch, Hadley or Jay? Did you guys watch the video of the bootleg CD
No.
kid? Did you actually see that? As
Yes.
a 48?
I don't actually like to watch those videos.
It's a 48-second video. It is
I've
so disturbing. It is so disturbing. It is true that on that video you can't actually see the victim's right hand in the video. So there's some, there's some sketchy details about that. But the calm way in which the officer pulls his pistol and then sort of hesitates for a second on top of the guy, thinking, well, what do I do? And then just blasts him at point blank range in the chest. Wow. It just looked so excessive. It's hard to imagine the justification.
Yeah. The first thought I had when I saw the video was, this looks like an execution.
That's exactly right. That's what it looked like.
And I know that sometimes there are things that happen. There have been a lot of events like this, too many events like this, where over time and during the course of an investigation, all the facts are brought to light and everyone's perspective is considered, and maybe things end up changing. It was this way and now we think it was that way. But my first impression watching this video was, this is a huge injustice, and we just had a sermon at my church a couple weeks ago about justice. It was actually Psalm 57. It was this psalm that was just like, really, it sounded so mean. It was like, break their teeth, God, and make them like a stillborn child, God.
The imprecatory songs,
love it.
right?
It's
yeah,
harsh.
and actually my pastor mentioned some things. He mentioned the what happened at Stanford University when Brock Turner was convicted of rape, but then only got 6 months and eventually may only serve 3 months in prison. Just about how do we respond when there's injustice in the world, and when our hearts are crying out for justice, that is that we should be comforted in knowing that we serve a just God who is the ultimate judge. But this kind of injustice that we see when it comes to what appears to me to be police brutality, or at the very least the escalation of events like this when it seems unnecessary, I have felt really conflicted about what do I do? What do I do now? Because on one hand, the virtue signaling and the people making their Facebook posts into like a personal press release.
Right. Hashtag.
That's hard for me to deal with, because on the one hand, I feel like if this is what it looks like, this is a terrible injustice, and it is an issue of race, and it is an issue of police abusing their power, and I want to speak out against it because I want my friends to know that I'm against bad things and I'm for good things. Mm-hmm. But then on the other hand, I think maybe it's not my place to be, everyone has an opinion about this, but maybe I prefer to listen right now instead of spread my opinion.
Have an immediate opinion.
But then I worry that by not saying anything, that people might interpret my silence as something that I don't mean.
Approval. Right.
Yeah. And so I've just been praying that the meditations of my heart and the words of my mouth would be pleasing to God, and that whatever we're called to do in response to this as Christians and as the church, that God would make that clear to us, because this is heartbreaking. I mean, this guy's a father, the man in St. Paul, also a father, a hardworking man, and it really doesn't, those characteristics are interesting and I think make them more sympathetic, but it really doesn't matter. No one should die like that without due process, and so there's a lot of...
hit the nail on the head right there.
There's a lot of stuff in these stories, and it's all very troubling to me, but I think the most troubling thing to me is, what do I do about this,
Yeah,
what can I do? I feel powerless.
And isn't that something, though, that is also a feature of our new online social media world. Everybody is expected to have the instant opinion. Everybody is expected to signal their virtue by sharing the right
Draw
hashtag
the line in the sand,
or the right
right.
meme. Everybody's got to get on the right side. And I'm just thinking to myself, we don't. Can we just pause for a second here? What's going on? What is the right side? What side am I supposed to be on? I'm a conservative. I am a dyed-in-the-wool conservative. I'm a law and justice guy, right? Law and order. I'm pro-law enforcement. But I watch this and go, oh, boy. Wow, that's not what I mean by law and order. But do I have to hashtag it? Do I have to jump out? Or do I have to have an opinion? You know, I think we should let the facts come out of these things. I will say this as a word of caution, and this is no way to minimize what your eyes are seeing. I will say that very often I am absolutely convinced of this. Video can lie to you. Okay? Video can lie to you. What you think you're seeing with your eyes is not what you're seeing with your eyes. I'll give you an example. You might remember the Rodney King riots way back when the 4 LA police officers were caught on video, smacking Rodney King with his batons, and the media played, 10 seconds of that video, 50 times a day for months and months and months, and all you saw was these 4 white officers beating this guy. Those guys were actually acquitted in court, and they were acquitted because of the video. Because they actually showed the whole video to the jury, frame by frame by frame, to show that this man, who, by the way, had taken 2 tasers to the chest and still charged at them, who was on the ground, was not being subdued. That, I'm just saying, be wary of clips of videos you're seeing. I'm not judging it or prejudicing it one way or the other. I'm saying be hesitant, however, to just jump to conclusions.
Here's my problem with hashtag activism. It generally begins without having any of the facts, any of the circumstances. Half of the stuff that comes out right away, I've seen way too many news stories that have come out with completely wrong facts. People blasting about this stuff is factual. It's like, guys, that's not even remotely close to what happened. And, it's like, step back for a second. Be outraged that somebody got shot, okay? It's horrible. They have non-lethal weapons.
In those circumstances.
They have non-lethal weapons.
Yeah.
Maybe they should make a greater, maybe there should be greater training in using them. But be outraged that somebody got shot, because violent crime is horrible. It's horrible. But at the same time, step back for a second and wait for the appropriate people to come out with all the facts.
But here's the thing, though, Jay. We have an erosion in the trust of our institutions.
Oh, it's gone.
Okay, so the police does an investigation comes out, and let's just say exonerates the officer in St. Paul. Does anybody believe it? Does anybody? After what we just saw with James Comey and Hillary Clinton, does anybody believe it? People think that all this stuff is fixed. And this is a real problem in our society. And I want to say this. Here's what's really disturbing to me about the St. Paul case. The guy had a concealed carry permit, and he's sitting in the car, and per the law, apparently, in Minnesota, the cop comes to the car, and he informs the officer that I'm carrying a gun, and I have a license for it, and reaches for his wallet and gets shot 6 times. Now, here's what I want to ask. I have a concealed carry permit. I very well could have been the person who told the cop, oh, I'm carrying and I have a permit for it. I am a white male. What are the odds I get shot 6 times in that scenario? What are the odds? You see, that's where the Black Lives Matter crowd, as extreme as they can be, thinking, painting the picture that cops are all racists and out to kill black people. But that's the element of truth here. And that's the cultural problem that we have to face, okay? There is 0 chance a cop shoots me 6 times when I inform him that I'm carrying concealed when he pulls me over in the car. 0 chance. This guy's dead. It really did happen. And on what's going on here? We are a nation coming apart at the seams, all right? Racially, culturally, socioeconomically, we're coming apart at the seams. And, the way forward is not to stoke further division, which is what a lot of people in politics try to
Donald Trump.
The left does plenty of stoking.
Obama.
Plenty of stoking of division. Us versus them, the bad guys and the good guys. But I'm saying, can we put on our thinking caps and have clear eyes about what's going on here? We have to address these problems, because I wouldn't get shot in that scenario, Jay. You wouldn't get shot in that scenario. And this man was shot in front of his girlfriend and his daughter in the car. It is absolutely horrific. What do we do culturally?
I'm a cynic,
at the
and
edges.
I'm just afraid that there's no hope. That hope is lost. But I think it comes back to Hadley's point. What do we do on the ground in our worlds, in our spheres of? I mean, it's one thing to like do this faux outrage with hashtag activism, but it's another thing to talk to your neighbor or your coworker or somebody else who's
children.
Or your children, yeah.
Okay, part of the problem is that people individually think they're going to change the world. What is hashtag activism? What are Bernie Sanders rallies all about? What is Occupy Wall Street all about? Is telling young people that, man, if you just get involved, you're going to change the world. Well, I got some news for you. If you just get involved, you're not going to change the world. Okay? Being involved in hashtag activism is not going to change the world. Holding a big protest is not going to change the world. What's going to change the world is you being godly where God put you. In the situations and scenarios God put you. A social fabric, a community is built by people in relationship, not by hashtags. And we have a cultural problem, a problem at the level of communities. Are we going to address the problem of the demise of the black family and the extremely high crime rates in black communities, which makes cops on edge in these high African American communities? We're so fearful that a black man in the car says, oh, by the way, I'm carrying a gun, and the cop pulls his gun out because he's fearful of his life. We're living in a culture of fear and mistrust. There are people stoking fear and mistrust. I don't see an easy answer to that. I don't see Band-Aid answers to that, and I don't see government answers to that at the end of the day. There aren't government answers to that. That is a cultural and societal problem that individuals are going to have to resolve in their own communities.
Well said. When we come back, you guys are going to be talking about...
Hadley doesn't even get to say anything more on that topic. Come on.
We're running short on time. Go, Hadley.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I just try to remember that for us, this is, it's a political topic, it's a cultural topic, but there's a 15-year-old boy in Louisiana who doesn't have a dad anymore. And on a personal level, our hearts should really break for these two families and for these two communities that have lost someone. They knew his name, they were used to interacting with these people. And I also think, and this may get me in trouble with some people, but I think we should also remember those police officers who fired their weapons, because I can't imagine what they're going through right now emotionally and spiritually, wrestling with what has happened and what's going to take place in the next weeks and months. So I think as Christians, the first thing we can do is just remember that these are people, all of them made in the image of God, all of them sinners who've fallen short, sure, but people that we can remember in our prayers. And, if there's anything that we can do to prevent things like this in the future, it's not just about what's legal or what's justifiable, but it's about what can we prevent. And I think this whole series of events sort of underscores to me that there's a difference in justice in this world, and we can try our best to have a good justice system, and God's justice. There's a big difference. God's justice is perfect. And even when we try to have a system of law and order, we try to have justice this side of heaven, it's never going to be perfect. And so I just pray, come quickly, Lord Jesus, come the day, hasten the day when we can feel that there really is justice and there really is 100% perfect peace for all of the people who have been affected by this.
Well said.
Well said. It's well said. You're listening to Dead Reckoning Radio. We're talking about the police shootings this last week, and we're going to be moving on to censorship. Iowa pastors. After this quite appropriate word from Alliance Defending Freedom. We'll be back right after about this 3-minute break to pick up with Not the Onion News. Take a break from the heavy, a little bit of humor, and then talk about some pastoral censorship. Should be interesting. We'll be back right after this.
A pre-enforcement challenge is a type of lawsuit a person can file when the government is threatening them with the enforcement of a law, but has not yet actually enforced it against them. These kind of lawsuits have a rich constitutional history within our country and have been used for decades to protect our most fundamental First Amendment freedoms. In fact, the political left has used them to great effect to achieve their goals and legal aims. They've used them to challenge laws regulating partial birth abortion, laws regulating the sale and distribution of pornography, laws regulating child pornography, and even laws regarding the surveillance programs that were spawned from the 9/11 attacks. Now is the time for Christians to benefit from this legal mechanism, the pre-enforcement challenge as well, as we are increasingly seeing governments using sexual orientation non-discrimination laws to compel Christians to create or print or promote messages that violate their core religious convictions. The purpose of filing one of these pre-enforcement challenges is to turn the tables on the government. Rather than waiting to see if they're going to enforce a law against you, you can file a lawsuit to seek an injunction to prevent them from being able to do so in the first place. Our case in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is a perfect example. Our clients, the Knapps, who run the Hitching Post, a for-profit wedding chapel, the Knapps are also ministers of the gospel and perform the ceremonies there, found out through media reports that the local city believed that for-profit wedding chapels, if they declined to perform same-sex wedding ceremonies, would be in violation of the local sexual orientation non-discrimination law. Our clients saw this in the media reports, saw their business named as one that could be potentially in violation of the law, and called the city to confirm whether ministers would actually be in violation of the law if they declined to perform a same-sex wedding ceremony. And the city said, yes, you run that risk. So rather than waiting to see if the city made good on that threat, as soon as the Knapps received a request to perform a same-sex wedding ceremony at their wedding chapel, Alliance Defending Freedom filed a lawsuit to prevent the city from being able to enforce the law against them at all. If you're a Christian business owner and you're concerned that one of these sexual orientation non-discrimination laws is going to be enforced against you, call Alliance Defending Freedom. We can assess the risk of your situation and advise you on whether a pre-enforcement challenge is possible under your circumstances. We'll represent you free of charge and will help you protect your most cherished First Amendment freedoms. And if you win your lawsuit, you will be protecting the rights of Christians all across this great nation.
All right, guys, Not the Onion News, where we sit around and we look at a couple different articles and then decide which one's true and which one's fake. We just did this. And just a quick word. Welcome to Dead Reckoning Radio Live. We are live. We're sitting around talking about things from a distinctly Christian perspective. And that's Hadley. If you're joining us, that's Hadley. Heath, that's Brian Mattson. And we're going to take a little break from our next big topic and just kind of play a little game. Oh, I'm Jay. Yeah. I'm your sometimes not very focused host. So, that said, guys, here is the first headline. And if you're online, play along because it's fun. Everybody goes for Team Hadley. 2 workers played hooky for 15 years before they were fired. This is a business related, not the Onion News. 2 workers played hooky for 15 years before they were fired. Headline number 2, local business to specialize in solo weddings. No groom required.
Is there any place associated with the second one? Are these international or domestic?
These are. I'm not giving you places.
Okay, so it's 2 workers play hooky for 15 years before getting fired.
Yep.
Yep.
And then a local business specializes in solo weddings.
Okay, that one's just too obvious.
I just read an article about the whole like mating and getting married to the sea. Wasn't that a college in California? One of the professors.
So. But look, I think that one's too obvious. It's obviously made up because the intense debate right now over sexuality and marriage. I think that one's obviously made up. And the two workers who played hooky for 15 years getting caught is the true headline. And because I actually know that this once happened, and I don't know if this is a similar situation, but there was a government worker who got a job, a federal government GS something job, and
that just explains pay grade,
and never showed up. And you know how he pulled it off? He told his boss that he was actually a CIA operative and he would be gone a lot.
What?
And actually was
you can't tell your boss. No, nobody ever watched.
No,
nobody watched Sydney Bristow.
This actually happened, and this guy was gone and never showed up to work for years and years and years. And you know, whenever he talked to his boss, he claimed he was in the field and all of this, and he collected a paycheck for years before the federal government was able to not retain his services anymore. I'm saying that's the real headline, and the solo marriage one is fake. Hadley?
That was a lot of explanation.
I'll go flip skis with Brian just to make things interesting. I think solo weddings are, the way of the future. Also, Rimley just commented, "Are we down?"
All right, my friend John is back.
I switched network cards. We're back up to 10.
Big shout out to my friend John, the lifelong Democrat.
Thank you guys for staying with us. Those of you who end up at the end of the very show, who end up at the end of the show still online, I'll send you all a free T-shirt. How's that sound?
There you go.
Just for putting up with the madness.
Stick with us, folks.
Yeah. Hello.
They should get a special T-shirt like I survived
the
July
DR Live
7th show.
Yeah, the July 7th show. You know what we could do? Oh, it's too bad Hadley's not here. I was thinking we could all sign it with a Sharpie. Like a signed T-shirt, but we can't have Hadley do that. She's in Colorado.
Okay. You guys ship all the T-shirts to me, pre-signed by you guys. I'll sign them all.
You'll send them out? Okay, that sounds like a headache.
Oh, man.
That's going to be what you want to do when your newborn baby is around. Or a hat.
Yes, Jacob, I will send you a hat if you want a hat. That works, too. Or a hat. We can send you a hat. He's wearing one.
He likes my hat.
My flat, like Brian's? Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. That's a cool hat. We've actually been giving away more of the flat bills than not. Okay, now we're back up to 14, so it's not quite the 20 we had when we left. 15, it's slowly getting there.
I just want to know, can I get solo married to myself? That's what I want to know.
We're doing Not the Onion News, remember?
Yeah, I was just getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Not the Onion News, the two headlines, in case you forgot, local 2 workers played hooky for 15 years before they were fired. Second headline, local business to specialize in solo weddings, no groom required. Right, Hadley, I think...
I said playing hooky, Hadley said...
Weddings.
The weddings.
I think it's getting to the point where Hadley, you can actually... marry yourself.
Really? Because you're about to tell me she won.
You guys ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We consummate with ourselves all the time, so why not?
Oh, Jay, no.
Why not make it like legit, right?
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry
to
our
live
viewers.
Sorry to our live listeners that actually came
that
out.
I heard that.
Yeah.
But it's not that big of a stretch, is it?
Well,
to marry yourself?
It is true that sexuality has become very much a solo thing.
That's my point.
But you could have said it so much more artfully.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I don't like to do artful.
I know you're
I don't
not
do artful around here.
Will you just tell us, Jay? Tell us who won.
Yeah, okay, guys. Well, I was waiting for some people on, like, everybody's, like, raving about shirts and hats. I was hoping maybe they had a thought on see what the consensus lies on our live stream. If you are listening live and you want to join us, just click on over to the Dead Reckoning page and click the comments section in this, and you can jump in on the comments. So, the actual answer, you guys. Ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Spain's economy may be getting back on its feet. But that's no thanks to 2 workers who were recently fired for collecting pay without working for the past 15 years.
Yes!
In the town of Jerez de la Frontera, known for its sherry, flamenco dancing, and motorcycle competitions, fired a driver and a gardener employed through the local General Confederation of Labor. He was a union employee.
Union
that
guy.
by itself. I not
Beautiful.
to make
In
fun of
Spain.
That's so beautiful.
In
Spain.
Spain.
in Spain.
So what happened? They had jobs and they didn't show up to work for 15 years?
Let's see. They had been collecting pay without going to work for up to 15 years, according to the local and English-speaking news network. The municipal quote, the city in a statement said, "The municipal government only seeks to eliminate unjustified acquired habits that do considerable damage to the operation of the city council, its services, and especially its battered coffers." I don't even know what that means. When questioned, the two employees admitted they had not gone into work, but said the situation followed a tacit agreement with the different municipal governments that had been in place for more than 15 years. Additionally, they contended they were simply taking their accumulated vacation days.
15 years of vacation.
That's some sweet vacation time.
It sounds like Spain.
It's Spain. Yeah. I didn't take any of my siestas. Just counting them all as vacation time.
15-year siesta.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted the places, That's why I was asking.
I missed. Additionally, they contended they were simply taking their accumulated vacation days and those of their colleagues as stipulated under union rules.
Well, wait a minute. What union is that? I can take my other employees' vacation
That's
time?
the socialist union. I earn the vacation, you get to take it.
That didn't even get a chuckle out of Hadley. I'm shocked.
She's just smiling.
She's tired. Late night show.
Pregnant hormones.
I'm hung up on this solo wedding thing because I feel like the solo wedding could be like, if you were really chasing paper and trying to be an entrepreneur, I think we're onto something here. Solo weddings, because there's already so many things that are kind of like this, like your quinceañera, your debutante.
You can't get over the fact that you lost.
Oh, I know.
No, but then it enters. Look, we've already talked about the fact that same-sex marriages bring up a whole issue of tax laws and property laws and all this other stuff. Solo laws would eliminate all of that. Your solo marriage you wouldn't have, because you'd still be your own owner of everything, and it'd be all good.
I could just totally see somebody being like, there's a certain point in my life where I realize I'm probably not going to meet anyone or get married, but why should I be denied this rite of passage where people have a big party and cut the cake and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to have my whole solo wedding.
And I want the government to approve of it, too.
Yeah, exactly. Can I get a tax break for two, please?
Exactly.
Remley says, get the dress and the flowers without the mother-in-law drama? Sounds like money-making. That's funny. Molly says they do solo weddings in Japan. I think they do solo and they do inflatable blow-up doll weddings. I actually saw a headline for that.
Robot weddings?
Robot weddings? Yeah, you can kind of marry whatever you want.
That's what happens.
Back to the Southern California University.
We talked about that before. What to expect when no one's expecting is you get robot weddings. Robot weddings.
Oh my
Demographics, people. Demographics.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we got 90 minutes, guys, because we restarted our show.
We're not doing 90 more minutes. No.
I'm kidding. We're having so much fun, though. Okay. In our last sponsor segment, you'll notice that Alliance Defending Freedom's Jeremy Tedesco explained what a pre-enforcement lawsuit is and how they might benefit you or your organization. Well, this week, they filed just such a lawsuit in Iowa that made major headlines. The Iowa Human Rights Commission put out a pamphlet explaining how all public access gatherings will be governed essentially by speech codes that prohibit any language that might upset people of the LGBT persuasion. This is becoming standard fare, of course, but what raised eyebrows is that we have a pamphlet explicitly addressed the question of whether this is applied to churches. The answer is
yes.
Yes. If your church service is open to the public, example, all church services, what your pastor says from the pulpit is subject to the speech code. That means, especially when he's preaching on what the Bible says about sex or marriage.
Yeah.
ADF filed a case in federal court challenging this. But this isn't too much of a stretch, thinking that the whole, you have a place of public business, so therefore you have to serve X. If you are a public anything, you have to do X.
Right.
Where do you guys go with this?
So by churches, they also mean mosques too, like they mean any house of worship, right?
Yeah, but that's
Well,
not what
probably not,
But the
no.
pamphlet didn't say that. The pamphlet specifically addressed the question of churches.
And I'm going to be a cynic and say probably not mosques, because that would be too offensive to the Muslims.
Well, that's what's interesting is how that it gets arbitrarily applied so often. I mean, nobody's going to
It just seems like to me that within Islam there are pretty restrictive beliefs about sex and marriage too. So it's not just Christianity's not the only moral code. In
but you don't.
that's
You
ever...
don't see the LGBT crowd going to Muslim bakers and asking them to bake cakes for their
No, they're
weddings.
deliberately seeking out one particular
Yeah,
religious
there's
group.
reasons for that.
Right, but I think sometimes it's useful just in terms of a thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
What if this were applied to mosques or some other religious minority that's not Christians?
Right.
To credit ADF is about defending religious liberty for all people.
True.
And so that's something that's been impressive to me about the organization. But this was the thing about the Orlando shooting too. It was a shooting at somebody who said they were doing this on behalf of jihad, but then the targets of the shooting were LGBT people. And so I think that there's a real tension there that doesn't get explored very often. But my first thought reading this was, I wonder how this applies to other religious sects besides just Christianity. But it seems like the focus is on Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction is we have a First Amendment to the United States Constitution, the very first part of which is granting the free exercise of religion, the second part of which grants the free exercise of your speech. So this particular code is 0 for 2. Okay, number one, my pastor can say whatever he wants to in front of the when he's behind the pulpit, without government interference, without government censure whatsoever, and it's not their they can't do it. It's prohibited by the very principles that founded this country. What's alarming to me is the ease with which we have this unaccountable group called the Human Rights Commission in Iowa. Who even knew we had
I think it's
such
the
a
Civil Rights.
or the
Hey,
Civil
did you
Rights Commission?
I was going to say, the
Who even
HRC
knew?
actually has the same initials as Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, who actually knew we had this really, frankly, unaccountable group of people policing people's language to make sure that LGBT people don't have their feelings hurt? Okay, but the ease with which we write a pamphlet like this and write regulations like this without any thought whatsoever to what the constitutional order of this country is and what it's legal for the government to do or not do. And that's why I am grateful for our friends at ADF. And yeah, they are sponsors of this show, but I'm not saying this because they're sponsors of this show. I'm grateful for them paying attention to this kind of thing and realizing this is an assault on our fundamental freedoms to restrict not only our religious exercise, but our speech.
Well, here's something that, in the last segment we talked about divisions in our country and especially on the lines of race. But this is, to me, what's remarkable about this is similar to the birth control stuff and the Affordable Care Act. You don't run into a problem until you start talking about interaction with the public. So it's almost as if churches only allowed members to come into their services, if these were private gatherings instead of public gatherings, then we could avoid the issue, then we could avoid the problem. But because because churches are by nature trying to be open to the public and open to anyone who wants to attend, that's where we start to run into the problem. And that seems sad to me for a couple reasons. Number one, if you have a disagreement with a church or their doctrine or their position on something, do you really want it to be a situation where they're only discussing these ideas behind closed doors? Or do you want it to be the kind of place where you can come and engage and have a conversation? And, from another perspective, if you are someone who is religious and this is sort of where your worldview is rooted, does it not sound as if you're being told to sort of keep any parts of your worldview that have to do with religion sort of private and out of the public sphere? And I think that's really what's concerning to me about this most, is that if we're going to be a pluralistic society where we live and let live and we have our disagreements about things like bathrooms and homosexuality and marriage and all these, very controversial hot button topics, don't we want it to be the kind of place where we all have the freedom of speech to say things, even if they're stupid things, even if they're things that we find offensive, even if they're things that we disagree with? I mean, how are we supposed to ever have any kind of exchange of ideas if we just expect people with different perspectives to sit in rooms purely populated by people with whom they all agree? So if we're all just going to hang out with people that we agree with all the time, we're never going to have any exchange of ideas. What's the point? We will be a divided country. We won't be a pluralistic society. We won't have any opportunity to persuade people or change their minds.
Well said. Yeah, this is an attempt to keep certain religious views out of public discussion and not being said out loud in the open air, in the public square, in the village commons. It is to say, you bless your heart, poor you. You can go and hold your views or your opinions about what God intended for sex and marriage, but you're going to have it behind closed doors only with people that agree with you, and you're not going to poison anybody outside of those four walls. It is an attempt to marginalize a viewpoint. That's the point. Now, why was the First Amendment adopted in the first place? It was adopted so that the government is not allowed to marginalize viewpoints. That's the whole point. Our founders wanted an open public square. They wanted the marketplace of ideas where people can debate and discuss and come to some agreement with one another. It just seems to me this is the latest in a particular attempt to silence particular viewpoints, to privatize them, to say, you're not welcome at the table, you're not welcome in the public sphere, and so keep your mouth shut publicly, or else.
Can I just ask for a little tolerance from the LGBT community?
A minute.
Please,
Oh.
just a teeny bit. Just
Mic drop. Yeah.
This reminds me.
Tolerance and love.
This reminds me of something that my media law professor used to say about censorship, and she was talking about hate speech, right? And so, in media law class, we had to learn what the definition of hate speech is, and for some people, I'm sure.
What is it, by the way?
Yeah, it's very subjective, is what it is.
I kind of want to know what it is.
Very subjective.
It's whatever
and
you
so
disagree with.
To some people, I'm sure that to say things like homosexuality is a sin, or women and men should use bathrooms that match their anatomy, I'm sure some of those statements would be considered hate speech by some people. But what my media law professor used to say, and this is someone who I'm talking is very liberal, and what she had to say about it was actually truly liberal. And she said the solution to hate speech is not less speech, but more speech. Right. So if someone's saying something that offends you or that you disagree with or that you think is hateful or offensive, the solution is not to go unplug that person's microphone and make it so that this person has no place in the public square, but allow them to be heard, listen to them yourself, respond to them, engage in a discussion. Because if people are just taught that, hey, you have something hateful to say, but you're not allowed to say it, just keep it to yourself. I mean, is that really the message that we want to send to people, that if you have an unpopular opinion, just keep it to yourself, whatever it may be? I don't think that that's the message that we want to send to other people in our society. And hopefully, if you go to a church and you hear something from the pulpit that you find offensive or that you disagree with, maybe you are someone who's gay or lesbian, you visit a church and you hear some preaching that that you disagree with or that you feel like is in conflict with your lifestyle. Hopefully you feel like it's the kind of place where after the sermon you can introduce yourself to the pastor, you can start a conversation, you can talk about things in a peaceful and reasonable way. And it doesn't mean that at the end of the day everybody's going to agree or come to the same conclusion, but can't we be adult enough to hear out the viewpoints of people who are different from us? I mean, how in some of these cases, that's an open door to evangelism when people come into the church and they say, hey, I heard something that I'm not sure if that sits right with me. I want to talk to you more about this. Talking more about these things is where we want to get to. We want to get to a deeper place. We don't want people to just come sit in the pews and think, I didn't like that, so I'm not coming back here. We want it to be the kind of place where you're not just listening, but you're engaging. I mean, I think this is what church communities are about.
I think it's important also to point out that this is a very multifaceted and multi-layered cultural issue that we're dealing with right now. These sorts of things, this Civil Rights Commission and these sorts of speech codes for the LGBT community, not to have quote-unquote hate speech spoken out loud, a lot of this is being driven by an agenda that's being carried out by activists, activists in the LGBT community who rightly or wrongly feel like they need to promote their lifestyle and their worldview and get it codified and protected into law. And there are activists who have no interest whatsoever in the kind of conversation you just talked about, Hadley. There are activists, there are New York Times editorialists who have said people that hold your point of view, Hadley, should be stamped out. That's a quote, by the way, by a New York Times editorialist. There are activists who really are doing this as a matter of an agenda. And it's important, I think, to recognize that activists don't really represent the entirety of the group they claim to represent. Okay.
That's right.
So very often on this very program, I can be very, very vehement in my opposition to the LGBT movement. And I don't want people to misunderstand me, that when I speak very strongly about a movement, it doesn't transfer automatically to anybody who might associate with that movement, right? Or might be involved in that kind of a lifestyle. I would have very different manner and way of talking to really two different sorts of people. And so when we're dealing with laws like this, I'm talking about activists. These are people who are not interested in having a public discussion about these things. They really do want me to shut up. They do want my friends and I to huddle in a little room and just talk to ourselves and nobody else. And I have a problem with the activists. And it's part of my job here on Dead Reckoning, because I have a microphone and the internet. And the internet to oppose. How
many comments have we got for people to tell us to shut up? And we're like, well, go at your own radio show if you don't like what we have to say.
But that's what it's the First Amendment, and that's what we're going to do.
We need to keep those church services open to people, though, because otherwise we'd have 5 times the women committing suicide. Bringing it full circle.
I don't even know where to go with that.
No improvement.
All of the people who've stuck with us for the whole podcast, that one was for you.
Oh dear.
Oh,
that was absolutely fantastic, Hadley.
Man. Do we even say anything more after?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think that we should wrap it up.
Oh man, you
that
guys.
Was fun.
Oh. Ouch, I got a side ache from that. Thank you for joining us tonight. Until the next show, where can people go to follow Hadley? Where can people go to find more one-liners and just like total epic
wit
verbal drops? Yeah.
Total epic wit. It's not a very epic wittiness, but my Twitter page is @HadleyHeath, and that's it's where I share my upcoming media appearances and other random thoughts that I have about things. I also work for the Independent Women's Forum. That's my 9 to 5. Although I have to clarify, I don't speak for IWF on this podcast. All the opinions I share here are my own. But IWF is a great organization. Their website is iwf.org.
Brian.
You can find me at www.drbrianmatson.com. That's drbrianmatson.com. I have a public Facebook page, Dr. Brian G. Matson. You can find me on Twitter at Brian G. Matson, where I share helpful articles and whatever's on my mind.
And thank you so much for joining us. To follow Dead Reckoning, head over to www.deadreckoning.tv. And we have an Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can find our show on The Resurgent. You can find our show on our podcast. That is the coolest place. Subscribe there, please. And while you're there, give us a rating. Hopefully something above 1 star. currently, I think we're still like killing the 5-star ratings. So thank you so much. Special thanks to Remley Gorsuch, our producer for tonight's show. She picks out the games. She identifies the topics, and Brian puts everything together in a somewhat cohesive manner. Thank you to both of you guys for joining us. And thanks to our donors. We have one in the studio. She's been great. Thanks for giving. You're fantastic. I sent you a box of swag, right? I did? Yes, good. So if you want to donate, please go to our website, www.deadreckoning.tv. Click the Contact Us or Support or whatever button it is and make a donation. Send us something over $25. Give us your shirt size and or your preferred hat, and we'll send it to you. Fantasticness. Thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. All of our live stream listeners for putting up with Facebook and putting up with the internet madness. It's been fun. So far, I think people still like us here better than everywhere else. So that's something.
It's something.
It's
if we could just
something.
keep the stream going.
We'll keep it going, guys. Look for this show on our podcast to share it with your friends. Sometime tomorrow by lunch, I'm going to be editing for 4 hours. I'm kidding. It won't be that long. It'll be like an hour. That said, Dead Reckoning is part of the Dead Reckoning digital entertainment brand. You're listening to DR Radio. I'm Jay Friesen.
I'm Brian Mattson.
And I'm Hadley Heath.